Yo, let's do this. So I promised to answer a few questions that I would get through socials. I asked you to ask me stuff on YouTube and on my Patreon and some other places. I'm gonna dig into it. Let's see how it's gonna work out. Maybe this will suck. Maybe it'll be the worst thing ever. Maybe it'll be fun. Let's do this. So I have the questions here, and I'll just dig in. Start with this. Do you have any tips on getting good house hats? How do you EQ them? Every time I try to cut some harshness, it makes the hat more harsh or more phasey. Well, let's see this. Any certain type of EQ, any EQ, digital EQ will do. So Pro Q3, I definitely do EQ hi-hats a lot in my work, especially some house hi-hats. Because see, if you see what's happening to this hi-hat, its tone is kind of generated by some resonant peaks, but you want to pull some of these down. Now, if you go too deep, you will suck the life out of it, but when you chase these peaks, hear that? So when you chase these peaks and take some of these down, you'll be making it a little smoother. The one thing with the resonance is it's easy to cut too much, but also when you do a lot of on and off, you will hear how it's affecting the sound. So let's do this. So what I'm doing here is probably cutting it a little too much, but also it's taking away some of the sort of annoying spots. I don't know if this hi-hat is the best example in the world, but literally look for the resonances and cut there. And what I do sometimes, I don't know if this hi-hat will need this, but I dig up this very high sheen with a sort of steep high shelf. So this spot is definitely very resonant. But then again, some of these spots kind of make or break the hi-hat, so just be careful. If you don't have an EQ that's gonna freeze the peaks like Pro Q3 does, you can just create some node that you can use to listen to where it sounds a little annoying. Go fairly narrow, like you can hear this sort of whistling here. And it's there that you want to cut. Sometimes when I think I've found a resonance, I actually boost it. And it kind of confirms to me that, that it's getting even worse. So yeah, cut the peaks to an extent. I often cut like intentionally too much to hear where it's just thinning it out too much. Then dial back, do a lot of on and off. Maybe give it a little bit of high sheen if needed. Sometimes I boost the lows or the low body. I guess as an engineer and a producer, my sound is kind of chunky. So I like to have these low mids. And one tip, don't high pass your hi-hats. Basically, I could spend the rest of my life without any high passing. The one thing I hear in people's productions is they do this religious high passing of everything. And let's hear. Let me get rid of everything else. You will hear this difference, right? Honestly, even this is so much nicer than this. Don't high pass anything. Just cut whatever is you feel is unnecessary by a bell or low shelf, but just don't high pass. Okay. Next question. Okay, so next question. Do you have any tips on how to come up with or improve a boring bass line? Well, let's start with what is a boring bass line. It's probably something that repeats too much. I mean, whenever I start a song or a beat or whatever, I usually come up with a bass line that works. And later on in the song, I just want to introduce some variation. So some ways to introduce variation. For example, start visiting notes that you're not originally playing. I do song feedback every week, and one of the things that I often criticize friendly is bass lines that just repeat like in a very similar fashion throughout this whole song. So just revisit some notes, but let me give you a quick example of how even changing the instrument for a while works. I'm gonna play a really quick part of a song that I've been working on recently. So let me play you. Check out these two. This is like 8 bars. So I'm playing this sort of. Sorry for the clickiness. I gotta fix the envelope on Serum. But then, so it's this kind of boomy bass that I'm doing with Serum. But there's a few sections in the song where I actually just change the instrument, but I play the same notes. So I'll play this again, and then actually let's solo. So this is the main bass. And then a few parts there's this bass it's probably a little too low, but it actually, it's a different tone. So pay attention to how the energy and vibe changes. There's probably some other changes, but my point is, for variation, sometimes you just want to change the instrument and play the same note. So let's do this. See here. So my point there was that I'm just changing the type of instrument. The bass sounds a little different. I'm not doing any other notes, like I'm not visiting any notes outside my bass line. But sometimes literally just changing the instrument works. But I do a lot of like little pieces of automation, like distorted for like a 1 bar or 2 bars at the end of like 16 bars. But what I do often is just I start visiting higher or lower notes. So it sounds so silly when you solo this type of bass, but like I would just, let's say that this is the boring bass line, I would just visit like higher notes. Yeah, sorry for the bass needs some touching, but my point is just sort of just do some other notes. Oldest trick in the book is just like maybe visit an octave, or just like what I often do is like 2 semitones down. It'll sound a bit shitty because it's not even monophonic, but it kind of works. So keep your bass but visit other notes. Do automation like distortion, saturation. Do like stuttery basses. If you have like really long gliding notes, like do go for like do and whatever. Just I think it's fairly easy, but I hope this helps. Next question. Okay, so next up we have, imagine you were an unknown producer, drum and bass. You have no industry contacts, no networks, no following. So totally starting from scratch. How would you approach trying to make an entry into the scene or any scene and release some music? Yeah, this is a tough one, and everyone's trying to make it. And well, I don't know how much I have to say that you don't already know, and a lot of it may come out pretty obvious, like what I have to say. Let's take a deep breath and see. So obviously everyone's trying to do it, but yeah, in a way there's so many things to say. Well, I will mention Bandcamp too, but one thing, fuck it, I'll start from somewhere. Whenever you start releasing music, have a place for it so people can check it out. Like, for example, I know this is gonna sound like I'm waving my own flag, but one big thing for me has been having a place where most of my music is, and I've been keeping my Bandcamp up for a long time. So there's releases from a fairly long period, and so when you release music, you don't necessarily label. I know you didn't ask that, But for example, you could use Bandcamp and put some releases up there and promote them on your socials, whatever you have, Facebook, Instagram, and have your releases here. And you could, for example, put a zero price for the music, which may be enticing to some people, and they can download it and they can pay for it, even if they do like a zero payment, and they will have to pay with their email, and you can export that email list from Bandcamp and even use it for mailing list to inform those people of your music. So I kind of digress from what you asked, but I'll get back to it. But I mean, you want to establish yourself as somebody who has something to offer, in my opinion. Like, to me, Bandcamp has been something that I can show, like, this is my discography. Well, there are some other releases, like label stuff, that is not connected to my Bandcamp, but to me, it has been important to have something that I can show, like, yo, I'm a producer, I have this much music. And so I would recommend doing that. And everybody who has downloaded something from your Bandcamp, whether they paid or not, they're gonna get a notification. But I know I digress, but put your best work in here. And now getting back to your question, finally, I would at least try and send your music to DJs. It's not easy, but find out how you can send your music to some of the DJs that play the style of stuff that you do. And here I'm thinking of a client of mine. I'll just mention him because he's a great guy and he's doing a little different things, but he has an amazing sound design. So he goes by the name of Cutting Edge. And I know he's been sending his music out to DJs like Doug Scott. And Doug Scott, he's been playing his stuff, for example. I'm sure many other DJs have. But I mean, I guess his plan has been to send his music out to lots of DJs and sort of get recognized that way. And whenever that happens, you might give that a mention, like, yo, Doug Scott played my music. And that, I guess we're all looking for some sort of validation, and especially those who want to book you or whatever. And even like everyone using social media, it kind of appreciates any sort of validation. I kind of hate the whole thing, but that's how social media works these days. So when you have something to show, like you have decent social media and a place for your music, it makes you look like a person who's taking this somehow seriously. So also local promoters, this is not going to be easy either, but for example, if you DJ, let them know. I'm the worst at this, I admit. But let them know what you're doing. And networking definitely would be great, like some other DJs, producers. I felt that it's not very easy to get supported in the scene. I don't know, I don't want to do a lecture about that, but some people are more helpful than others. But I just do a lot of networking. I think in this day and age, having connections is really important. So have a place for your music. Only put your best work there. Don't put every single song. Get in touch with DJs, promoters, other producers. That'd be kind of juicy for your inspiration, and just stick to it. I think this is very important. I think these days for most people it takes years to get anywhere because there's more people trying to make it than ever. Like, I don't want to do a grandpa lecture, but if I go back 20 years, I felt it was easier, like releasing music, getting vinyl releases was a big thing. Like that appeared pretty badass to people who were following your music, because social media that didn't really exist. So, but these days it's all about social media. So that's the game you gotta, I kind of hate it, but that's the game you gotta try and do. Some people do YouTube videos to kind of try and get out there, but that's not easy either. But my whole point is you just gotta keep trying, and if you do it from your heart, there's no way that you will do it seriously for like 5 or 6 years or whatever and not get to anywhere. I mean, it will happen. Just put yourself out there in some ways and make it look like you actually care about what you do, and it'll come to you. Just give it time. That's like my biggest lesson. And honestly, the thing is, if you do it from the heart, you will do it anyway. So in 5 years, it'll go somewhere. And if it doesn't, you will still love it. I don't know if that helps. Anyone else want to chime in, leave a comment. Next question. Okay, so do you remember what it was like when you got your first sampler or a significant piece of studio gear? Oh yes. What was it? And so on. Did it change or solidify the course of your music production journey? Yes. Well, I actually didn't start with hardware. I'm pretty sure I started in 1992 with Amiga and Octamed back then, and later on I used Fast Tracker and so on PC, and I didn't know of anything else, to be honest. It was all about trackers. I didn't know of... Actually, I guess linear DAWs existed in 1992, but to get back to my question, sorry for rambling, in 2000 I moved from countryside to Helsinki for many urban reasons like clubbing and whatever. But also, I was then in an area where I was able to find gear and whatever. I bought a Kai S2000. Funny thing is, I don't remember where I bought this one, but it doesn't even matter. But this actually made me feel like... It made me feel pretty badass. I don't know why. Hardware felt like a serious producer thing back then, like moving on to something. And so this was my first ever hardware sampler, and as you can see, it's a pain to use. There's just a few buttons, but the whole vibe about this was just like operating like a dedicated device. And I made a lot of music with it, and it definitely did help in terms of feeling like yo, I've actually paid money for this. Up until this probably early 2000, I haven't paid a penny for any music stuff because all I had was music trackers and ripping other people's samples on their tracker songs. So I bought this one, and later on I'm not even sure, I probably had like a Behringer mixer, but having those two literally made me feel like a producer, and I was churning out some songs. And later on, I also bought this EMU E5000 Ultra, and I got it on a local marketplace, huuto.net. Shout to Finnish crew, but I bought this one. I think funny thing, I wanted it so much that I put like a really high bid in when I saw it there. And I remember some people were like, there were comments like, "What the fuck? Are you crazy? Why like your maximum bid is so high?" And I was like, I'm fucking hell bent on getting that. I need that. I really want it. And I bought it. And this especially just, I think I made Siren Song with this. I'll get back to. I have a sad story about it. I made Siren Song with this. I probably used a Kai for that. I had a weird thing about dividing my bass and beats and pads and whatever. Later on, I did get another Akai S3000 and also the 5000. But I used to do beats with Akais and bass with EMU. I probably did some beats with EMU too, but I've always felt that EMU is softer with beats. To this day, I haven't compared, but that's always like I felt like Akai kind of punched much harder, or at least it didn't probably round the transients. Maybe one day when I retire and I have too much time, I'm gonna do a direct comparison sampling beats with Akai and EMU. But like EMU can do crazy basses, like the internal distortion, like you gain you take like a boom bass and you distort it with an EMU, add a bit of effects, like it has this EX sample, no, AX, like it's like an exciter, and it also has these filters. There's something magical about EMU's filters, or I think it's more about the distortion that it creates that feels great. I think maybe the EMU filters were a little overhyped in a way. Don't get me wrong, and EMU guys, don't get offended, but I think the EMU sound is something other than its filters. Like I don't think the filters were anything like super amazing. They were not bad, but maybe the shelf filter that moves around is kind of great. But to get back to the question, did it like affect my production? Yes, hell yeah. I literally probably for the first time in my life, I felt like a music producer working with the Akai samplers, not this one so much later on, but Emu and the other Akais. And it literally just, I don't know, it really sparked something in me. And they literally were like a part of my identity. And I made so much music, and that music got out there and literally took me around the world. So yeah, these devices really did a lot to me. I ended up touring a lot in Europe, 3 long tours in the States, like probably like 35 gigs in total in the States and Russia and whatever. So yeah, answer to the question, yes, these devices really did a lot to me. So if there's a takeaway here, if there's something that you really want, if there's something that inspires you, whether it be like a silly old device or the newest line of plugins, go for that and never let anyone else tell you otherwise. Like, because inspiration is very important in music. And the thing is, making music is not a rational process. Like, don't ever try and listen to people's opinions on does it make any sense if you use an old sampler, because those people don't know how much it actually inspires you. So don't try and mix the rational thought into creation of emotional product. Next question. Okay, so how did you become so meticulous with the drum breaks? I think a lot of people do not put into time to cut up individual sounds to that level. I found it encouraging to learn you did it this way, and I think it pays off. Yeah, this is the one thing that always hit me really hard about jungle and drum and bass was the break beats. The whole of 90s that I did tracker works, I did chop up things, but probably not as meticulous as when I got to work with this thing. I made this song with this guy. Let's listen to like a really quick snippet. Let me skip. Oh shit, sorry.
There's space over here.
That's one of my favorite drum breaks. I will be covering this break on my Patreon. That'll be for paid members. I've been covering some breaks and will continue to do that on my Breakbeat of the Month series. But to get back to the point, what was the question? I forgot. How did I become so meticulous with drum breaks? It just really interested me, and when I started working with this, I realized that it's kind of fun to chop every single drum hit, and because that kind of made me the drummer. Like, if you heard the song, it may sound to you like I've been using some loops, but no, like literally every single sound, like tick, 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 even in like a busy section of the drum break, I've chopped, and it became my thing. As a producer, it's great if you have your own thing. Not everyone has that, and it's fine if you don't, because it's actually really hard. But early 2000, I started feeling like these drums really are something special in this music. And I still feel like it, that this sort of style is underrepresented. And I guess I had some sort of passion for it, and it just grew. And I wanted to be one of those guys who does these breaks well. I think it kind of took me years of listening, or more like trying. I think because to me these rhythms just kind of happened. I have no formal training, but I know that my musical background is in the 90s, like the early or like mid 90s jungle, drum and bass, hip hop, and all the related styles like down tempo, like a funky beats, and they all have their roots in black music. Like there's no denying that. So I think all the rhythms that I like most are more or less based on black music. So when I started doing the rhythms of my own, I just took them from, like, I made them like what was very natural for me, which was like all black music rhythms. So that's why all the rhythms that I do in my music are very syncopated like this, because it's just the black music type of drumming, like funk, jazzy type of thing. So why did I I keep forgetting when and how. Yeah, the whole 90s I did listen to that sort of music. And when early 2000 with the hardware samplers, I started getting more into being like super meticulous. Big shouts to producers like Paradox, who have been the grandmasters of that style, like really sort of doing their rhythms. So big up to Dev Paradox for that. A lot of other guys around early-ish 2000, like Fracture and Neptune and Mac, and those guys like John Equinox, and those sort of producers really inspired me. And we had a forum called Subvert Central that really had a big inspirational effect on me and my works, because we all were doing the same thing. So I just wanted to do it. It took me time, and yeah, I guess it paid off. I guess if there's one thing I will be remembered for, it's the beats. So but I've always said, like, when you get really passionate about something, see how far you can take it. Like, try and perfect that thing. Like, don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Even if it's not the most popular thing, if it's something that's fulfilling to you, absolutely take it as far as you can. So what is your typical starting point with a song, chopping and break, bass sound, synth patch? Relating to the earlier question the previous one that I just replied to, it used to be drum breaks for a long time, like probably like 10 years at least, and it was fun. I still kind of do it, but I'm not so hell-bent, or like, I don't know what the word is, like I'm not so obsessed with breaks as I was. So for example, I mean, actually, let me stay there for a second. Anything that gets your vibe going. Then again, I'm not answering the question because you're asking me what I started with a song with. Anything that gets my creative juices flowing. It used to be drum breaks, but I guess I've sort of got pretty decent with them, which doesn't even answer the question either. But sometimes if I find a drum break that I've literally never heard before, I may still start with that, and just to kind of display and highlight the break and just write the song around the break. The thing about that is, when you start with a drum break, especially if you're not like really quick with them and like really efficient and fast, it may take you so much energy that the song doesn't necessarily get a whole lot of other elements, which is fine, like if you want to make a minimal song. But later on, like recently, past few years, I've been getting way more into like musical parts, like chords and stuff. I still suck at chords, and I literally only use these tools. But just to give you a sound example here, this is the song I played in our previous reply. But for example, this song literally started with this chord. Like, I open up Faceplant, and these sort of chords really take me back to my roots, like 90s jungle, Tech 9. Big shouts to Tech 9, 4 Hero guys. So whenever I hear something like this, it often really like gets my juices flowing. So I've been getting more into chords. And for example, this song, I was just trying to make a chord progression, which may be a little silly. Let me play you the 16 bars here, and it may be a little unorthodox. I'll then play it with beats and bass and whatever. So I was trying to get the vibe going, and I was like, I'm gonna use either of these two, like the totally repeating like the 2-note thing, or just later on, and I ended up using both. It took me like probably like 2 days to decide that, and whenever I feel like, okay, I'm done with that, I just start building something around it. And this is one of those songs, this is not out yet, it's for my next album, but whenever I feel like I've got something down that it really takes me to a place emotionally, I just want to add something. And for this, I added vocal and some fairly simple beats, which I think they work kind of nicely. So yeah, I digress. I do that, but whenever I get something that I feel strongly about, I want to make sure that it works, and I won't be hating it in like tomorrow. It happens to us all. But when I think that works, it can be a chord progression, bassline, breaks. I just build things around it. It's always been kind of easy for me, just add elements that support it. I'm not a classical songwriter, so whenever this song comes out in, I don't know, 1 year or two, you're gonna hear like, yo, this song, it's kind of a little poppy, but it doesn't follow a song structure that it's like easily copied from like a pop song. And yeah, that's me. I don't want to do that. So I don't know, whatever gets your juices flowing, start with that. Okay, so favorite video games. Well, recently I've been playing Fallout 76 way too much. I nearly completed Fallout 4. All the open world games like Red Dead Redemption, God of War, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they're great and they suck. Why are they great? You can just lose yourself in those games. Why do they suck? They hurt music production, because whenever you're a little tired and you know you should be working on a song, you're gonna get into that video game. It feels nicer, and your music just kind of takes the backseat. But I mean, these games are amazing. I love gaming, but I only do it like once or twice in a year. But like, I guess I'm a little obsessed with something. Like when I get into a game, I really get into it. And when I like have finished or sort of finished it, I just stay away from gaming for months just to be able to work on music more. So what was your career progression to where you are today, being a full-time mixing engineer and a mastering engineer? Was it planned or did it just evolve naturally? Where do my clients come from, and do I have to work to get new clients? I started the whole thing not as a joke, but as something to try, like literally pretty much like maybe 10.5 years ago. I just, because even then I had been working on my own music for over 20 years, and I was mixing and mastering my own music, creating all the masters for my music that was released. It's been very rare that anyone else got to master my stuff. So a little over 10 years ago, I put it online, that Facebook, I think, that, I could try creating masters for you people, because I think I'm decent at it. I was probably okay at that point, and it kind of snowballed. Like I started getting a lot of work. I was doing like fairly cheap stuff because I was a little unsure. So even I got so much work that even that kind of allowed me to practice like how it works, and it's been going real well. So things snowballed pretty quickly, and I think 2 years from that, 2 or 3 years, I went official, and I just kind of stopped doing everything else. I had been doing, because I have a teacher's degree from the university. I was doing teaching, like one-off gigs for like whatever, and I spent 1 year in a school. It was a respected school, and the pay was good, but it kind of killed my creativity. So I knew that I couldn't really chase that path, especially as a full-time teacher, because trust me, you will not make a lot of music when you're a full-time teacher responsible for so many people. I highly respect teachers, but it wasn't for me. So around that time, like 3 years from when I started it as not a joke, but as a thing to try out, I did the gigs for teachings just stopped coming in, and it was the perfect time for me to establish an actual official business and try to market it more. And it really just snowballed from there. And what else? What was in the question? I forgot. Sorry. Was it planned? Well, it was half planned, maybe. Like I said, I tried, but it just started happening so fast, and like I felt like, you know what? I'm not getting teaching gigs anymore, and this could actually be a job that I live off of. So yeah, I went official, promoted it a little more, and the word just spread a lot. Where do your clients come from? All around the world, but a lot of, probably the majority, I've never counted, but probably at least 70% are from the US. Like, I get a lot of house stuff. Because, for example, I mean, my reputation as the engineer for John Summit, I'm sure it's been very beneficial. I started working with him maybe like 7.5 years ago. I still remember he got in touch. He was like a hobbyist and working on his house songs, and I guess he found me through some YouTube videos and whatever, and I was working on his early songs. Man, he's made some music. Jesus, if you knew the half of it, like, he's made so many songs. So yeah, I mean, that has helped. And do you have to work to get new clients? Luckily, no. The thing is, I haven't paid for any ads for like maybe like 6 or 7, I don't know, years. Ads don't do much on this line of work, to be honest. It's more in the grapevine. Like, even when I paid ads, I was never sure that it worked. It's always like, hey, you mixed this song for this label or my friend or whatever, and now all the John Summit stuff, like, people come to me like, I like his sound, and can you help me steer my music to that direction? And so the work does come in daily. A few times a year, I'm in a place where I feel like I really need an assistant for rooting out some of the stuff, but I still do it on my own. But the work comes in daily, so I don't have, like, to answer the question. Sorry, I digress. I don't have to work or do ads because the reputation is out there and the market is pretty big. So work comes in every single day, and it's a full-time job, just rooting out the some of it and just doing quotations and whatever. I hope that helps.